Okay, so we've had a ton of requests to take a deeper look at this Michael Jeffries indictment.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, this thing goes way deeper than just your average celebrity scandal.
Yeah.
We're talking the former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO,
Right.
Jeffries, along with his partner Matthew Smith and this associate James Jacobson.
Mm-hmm.
They're all facing federal charges.
Wow.
And it all revolves around this alleged sex trafficking ring.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we're not talking just anyone here.
Right.
We're talking potentially vulnerable young men,
Okay.
aspiring models, a lot of them new to the industry.
Mm.
The indictment paints a picture of these guys being lured in with promises of these huge modeling careers, and then they were allegedly pressured into these sexual acts.
No. Wow.
So what we're going to do today is unpack everything we know from the indictment and any court filings that we have.
Okay.
We'll lay out the timeline, the alleged tactics, and really try to
Yeah.
wrap our heads around how this could have happened for so long.
Yeah. What really gets me with this one is it's not just like a one-time thing, you know?
Right.
The indictment's saying this went on for at least 7 years,
Wow.
starting way back in 2008.
Really?
And it's that they were targeting these aspiring models, often young guys new to the industry.
Yeah.
Which makes them, I think, way more susceptible to like manipulation,
Oh, absolutely.
especially by someone like Jeffries, who, you know, had so much power in that whole fashion world.
Yeah, it's almost like the worst case scenario, right?
Oh, totally.
Like you're trying to break into modeling and you're told this incredibly powerful guy
Yeah.
can make your career, but the price is, well, unthinkable.
Ugh, it's awful.
And the indictment actually goes into a lot of detail about how Jacobson was allegedly the point man
Right.
for finding and interviewing these potential victims,
Okay.
but this was not your typical casting call.
Yeah, no, this is what's really disturbing here is that
Yeah.
according to what we're seeing in the indictment, it was presented as a requirement for these guys to engage in sexual acts
During the tryout?
as part of the tryout,
To get the job.
as a way to prove themselves.
Like if you want to get to that next level,
It's almost like they normalize it, right?
oh, totally. They make it seem like this is just how it works.
This is how the industry is.
Yeah, and especially when you're like desperate to make it, you're up against all these other hopefuls.
You're not going to question it.
You just don't even think twice.
Right. And I think that's where the
manipulation.
the classic predator behavior comes in.
Oh, yeah.
They prey on that desperation.
Totally.
But, and here's the thing, the indictment doesn't just stop at recruitment.
Right.
It goes on to describe how the alleged control, like, tightened its grip once these men were in.
Yeah.
And it really does feel like a textbook.
Like a playbook.
Playbook, yeah, for how to manipulate people.
It's sad because we see this so often in these cases.
Yeah. Like, you always start with the isolation.
Right.
So in the indictment, they talk about how they use non-disclosure agreements.
Mm-hmm.
And this was not just to silence the victims.
Wow.
It was to create this whole culture of secrecy.
You can't talk to anyone about this.
Right. Like, keep your mouth shut.
And you're less likely to confide in anyone if you think you're the only one.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, you've got the career sabotage threat.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in an industry that is all about image and
Reputation?
yeah.
That's terrible.
If you speak out, you could ruin your chances before they even start.
You're done.
And like that wasn't enough.
Right.
They allegedly took their phones,
No way.
confiscated them,
Wow.
controlled all their communication.
It's about cutting off any support system, right?
Yeah, completely cut off.
Making them totally dependent on the abuser.
And then it's just a downward spiral from there.
Totally. They're isolated. They're afraid.
And they can't escape.
It's so messed up.
But wait, there's more.
Oh.
The indictment actually goes into detail about how these sex events were structured. And it's disturbingly organized.
Okay.
It wasn't just, random parties.
Right.
There were itineraries sent out.
Like planned out.
Totally planned out.
Wow.
Specific acts these men were allegedly expected to perform.
Oh, God.
And it wasn't just with Jeffries and Smith.
Oh, no.
Other men were involved too.
Jeez. This is bad.
And here's the thing. They disguised these itineraries
What?
to look like legitimate modeling events.
Seriously?
Use all the industry jargon.
Oh, wow, that's messed up.
So it's harder for these guys to even realize what they're getting into.
Ugh. So calculated.
Totally.
And all this, remember, while Jeffries was running Abercrombie and Fitch the whole time?
At the top.
Jeez.
And the locations, right?
Oh, yeah, the location.
We're not just talking about,
local stuff.
local stuff.
Yeah.
They were flown all over.
No way.
Jeffries' estate in the Hamptons, sure, but places across the U.S.,
Wow.
even internationally.
Seriously.
And this serves a purpose.
Yeah, it further isolates the victims, right?
Absolutely.
And it makes it harder to, like, track what's going on.
Exactly.
It's classic trafficking. Like, you see this all the time.
It's textbook.
It's like they studied the playbook.
Yeah, so we've got this system of recruitment, control, carefully orchestrated events, all facilitated by Jeffries' wealth and influence.
It's scary how much power he had.
It really is.
Like, how could this go on for so long without anyone noticing?
That's a great question, and that's what we're going to dig into next time. So make sure you tune in for part 2 of our deep dive.
It's easy to get caught up in the, like, how could anyone fall for this?
Yeah, I mean, it seems so obvious from the outside looking in.
But that's why I think it's so important to understand the psychology behind it all.
The exploitation.
Yeah, like, they weren't just targeting anyone, you know?
Right, they had a type.
The indictment really points to them looking for these young guys specifically.
Ambitious.
Yeah, the ones trying to break into modeling.
Yeah.
And that ambition, that drive, that's what makes them so vulnerable.
Because you're at your most optimistic.
Yeah.
You're maybe a little naive about how things really work.
Totally. And there's that pressure, too,
Like
right?
huge pressure.
To, like, prove yourself.
Pay your dues.
Yeah, pay your dues.
Especially in a field like modeling.
Oh, absolutely. It's so competitive.
So when someone like Jacobson, allegedly representing Jeffries, comes along, offering that in,
it's like a dream come true.
it's got to be almost blinding.
And the indictment actually, it goes into detail about how he would, like, require these guys to engage in these acts
During the tryout.
as part of the tryouts.
It's sick.
I don't know. It's like they twist that ambition into a weapon against them.
It's awful.
But it's not just about the initial, like, get him in the door.
Yep.
It's about how they maintained that control.
Once they're in.
The indictment. It's like a playbook.
For manipulation.
Yeah, it's sad, but we see this in other trafficking cases.
Yeah, patterns.
It always starts with the isolation, cutting them off.
So they can't talk to anyone.
Yeah, and they use the NDAs for that, too.
Right, the non-disclosure agreements.
Not just to silence them,
Yeah.
but to create this whole culture of secrecy.
So they think they're the only one.
Exactly.
They're less likely to confide in anyone.
And then on top of that, you've got the career sabotage threat.
Oh, yeah.
Like, imagine that in an industry all about, like, image.
Reputation.
Yeah, your reputation.
If you speak out,
you're done.
they're blacklisted.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
And as if that wasn't enough,
right.
they allegedly took their phones,
No way.
controlled all their communication.
It's about cutting off any support.
Yeah, anyone they could turn to.
Making them dependent on the abusers?
They're isolated.
Alone. It's so messed up.
Yeah. And the indictment goes into these sex events.
Yeah.
It's disturbing how organized they were.
Really?
This wasn't just random.
Okay.
There were itineraries.
Like, planned out.
Specific acts
God.
that these men were allegedly expected to perform.
That's awful.
And it wasn't just Jeffries and Smith.
Right.
Other men were involved.
Wow. This is bad.
And the thing is, they disguised these itineraries.
What?
Like they were legitimate modeling events.
Really?
Use all the industry jargon, you know.
So these guys had no idea what they were getting into.
It's so deceptive.
That's just evil.
And remember, all this while Jeffries is running Abercrombie and Fitch.
Yeah, a whole time.
At the top.
It's mind-blowing.
The locations played a role too, you know.
Right. Like, get them away.
Jeffries' estate in the Hamptons, sure.
Yeah.
But also, like, across the U.S.
Oh, wow.
And internationally.
Jeez.
Isolate the victims further.
Make it harder to track.
It's a classic trafficking tactic.
So they thought they couldn't escape. It's like they took away their hope.
So we've got this whole system, right?
Yeah.
Recruitment control.
Uh-huh.
Everything facilitated by Jeffries' wealth and power.
It's a scary amount of influence.
It really is, and it makes you wonder, how did this go on for so long?
Yeah, how did nobody notice?
That's what we'll dig into next time, so make sure you're back for part 3 of our deep dive. Okay, so we've laid out all the allegations.
Yeah, the tactics, the whole thing.
But now let's talk consequences.
Right, like what are these guys actually facing?
What kind of legal trouble are Jeffries, Smith, and Jacobson looking at here?
Well, these charges are serious, like really serious.
Yeah, we're not talking misdemeanors.
No, federal charges?
Federal charges, yeah.
Sex trafficking, interstate prostitution, like
Heavy.
if they're convicted,
Yeah.
they could be looking at decades in prison.
Wow, decades.
And remember, this whole thing, it's still ongoing, right?
Yeah, the investigation's not over.
The FBI, the prosecutors, they all think there are way more victims out there.
Yeah, it's like we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg right now.
Exactly.
And what about Abercrombie and Fitch itself?
Right, the company.
They've been pretty quiet, declining to comment so far.
Yeah, they're laying low.
But can they be held accountable for what allegedly went on under Jeffries?
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
Right.
Bradbury's lawsuit, remember?
Yeah, the below-deck guy.
Yeah, he directly accused the company of, like, creating this environment.
Yeah, where this kind of exploitation was almost encouraged.
Yeah, like it was part of the culture.
And if more victims come forward,
Yeah.
tell similar stories.
That puts Abercrombie and Fitch in a really tough spot.
Huge liability.
Civil litigation, for sure.
Yeah, lawsuits flying in.
Reputational damage. They could face boycotts.
I mean, their whole brand could be tarnished.
Yeah, this goes way beyond just one CEO, you know?
It really does.
This has implications for how the whole industry operates.
The whole fashion industry.
Yeah, think about it. Like, the power dynamics.
The pressure to succeed, young people.
Yeah, it's like a recipe for exploitation.
It's scary.
Not just at Abercrombie and Fitch, you know?
Yeah, anywhere you have that kind of power imbalance,
It's a wake-up call.
it feels like this case has really blown the lid off this dark secret.
Oh, yeah, it's been whispered about for years.
Yeah, like the casting couch in Hollywood.
Exactly, but now it's finally out in the open.
And it makes you wonder, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
How many other industries have this same problem?
Lurking beneath the surface.
Anywhere you have those power dynamics.
Ambitious young people, gatekeepers, it's...
Same story, different industry.
So what can we do about it?
Right, like how do we actually address this?
Well, companies need to step up,
Take responsibility?
implement policies, you know,
Clear policy?
against harassment,
Exploitation?
provide ways for people to report abuse,
Yeah, safe channels.
and actually take action when those allegations come up.
Don't just sweep it under the rug.
No more silence.
It's got to be a culture where people feel safe speaking out.
Knowing they'll be heard.
What about us, though?
Yeah, like what can regular people do?
If we suspect something's going on,
Be informed, you know?
educate ourselves.
Learn the signs of trafficking and exploitation.
Yeah, what to look for.
If something seems off,
Trust your gut.
don't be afraid to say something,
Report it.
even if you're not sure.
Better safe than sorry.
Exactly. And if you're in an industry like this,
Yeah, modeling, entertainment.
know your rights, set boundaries.
Don't be afraid to walk away.
If something feels wrong,
Trust your instincts.
this whole case, it's a wake-up call.
For all of us.
Not just the fashion industry, everyone.
Power can be abused, and we all have to speak out.
Silence only protects the abusers.
Exactly. This has been a tough one,
Yeah, heavy stuff.
but an important one.
For sure.
We've gone deep on the allegations, the tactics.
The wider implications.
Hopefully you, little listener, have a better understanding of all this now.
Yeah, it's complex, but knowledge is power.
And if there's one thing to take away from all this,
It's that silence is not the answer.
we have to speak up, shine a light on these dark corners.
Together, we can make a difference.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
And remember, there are resources available if you need help.
We'll have links to those organizations in the show notes.
Stay informed, stay engaged.
This conversation's far from over.
We'll see you next time.